Welcome, poachers and true people alike. This is Rauta's possibly spicy, possibly salty opinion of black metal these days, 2025. Now we're living in October 2025, so excuse me. What I'm showing to you is very recent stuff, release written by Steelfest Open Air Commander and his take, or well, the festival's take officially on black metal, how it is. I'm gonna show it to you here on the side while I will comment it and add some of my own takes. Why I'm taking this as a topic today is I very much agree with that statement. And so many people were misunderstanding the whole point. So I want to also tackle a little bit of those assumptions people were making, obviously not reading what was written, but adding their own comments between the lines. That already, with this rather inflammatory state of black metal, is something that we really don't need. And by we, I mean more than just Finnish black metal or black metal in together. This goes beyond the scope of whole black metal. This, in my opinion, applies to a lot of metal out there, but especially extreme metal, because you know how extreme metal shows and festivals tend to be. They have more than one genre, usually, most of the time, in the given lineup. So we're talking about essentially, but not necessarily limited to black metal, death metal, thrash metal. You can probably even extend to some doom metal ones, and obviously hybrid genres like death thrash, black thrash, and all that stuff. Black death, war metal, whatever you have. But let's get this show on the road and talk about it. So, Steelfest Open Air Metal Festival released this 3 days ago. That is on 13th of October, technically speaking, almost 4 days ago. Topic was black metal and the age of moral commerce. I think this is a very sweet way to put this. I would rather go a little bit more nastier than that, but hey, I'm not the writer here, so it's not my point to say what you should have been writing. I think what happened here with the whole text, and it's pretty lengthy, you need to read it on your own. I can link it to this very video in case you want to read it. But what the thing is, basically, in a nutshell, is that, or maybe I should read some pointers here. But first, I will say, in a nutshell, this is basically pointing out that what matters in so much more in the black metal scene and beyond these days is money and fame and success rather than staying true to your own values. Now, I get it for a lot of reasons. First of all, being true to your values don't really bring that jam or butter on the slice of your bread. So if you wanna eat, drink, and fuck because of your own band and career and success, well, obviously, you will sell yourself. You will become a whore in the music industry. And by this, I want to make sure that you understand, I have nothing against sex workers. They are great people, at least the few I've met, and they do important job. They sell their services, their warmth, their compassion even, along with the physical abilities and taking care of their customers to people who need them. So when I'm talking about whoring, I don't really mean that sex workers are bad, but more like, bands are becoming more like corporations. Their music is becoming more like a product, more than a service really, rather than art. And now I'm gonna take some parts of here, challenge the very text, and add my own comments. I'm not gonna read it all out loud because it doesn't make any sense. I'm just gonna pick some of the points you understand. For example, here we say we live in in time. Sorry. So we live in time where power hides behind empathy, and censorship speaks in the name of protection. The slogans have changed from the method is the same: control through shame, obedience through fear. Now, if you don't know what this means, it means basically that cancel culture as a whole, this can mean different people, different groups, different ideologies and whatnot, are kind of giving us what terms we can use or we should working under, or in which kind of a political climate or whatever climate really we are supposed to be working around. And this basically seems like, whether we're talking about religions, government, or independent groups, organizations or whatever, including but not limited to things like Antifa, who are telling what is okay in the world of art, or in this case, music. And if people remember what happened in the 80s, they are very, very aware where censorship leads. Now, it can really boost your sales, obviously. If you remember those political advisory explicit content stickers back in the 80s, put there by conservative religious people who were so concerned about kids listening to shady, sketchy music, and that was mainly hip hop and metal, I think, or remember it to be like that. Now, obviously, that can boost record sales, but only if you can actually get those, albums and all that stuff distributed. Now, distribution is a very, very interesting thing these days, because it's one thing to sell your albums in big, not record store chains, but grocery store chains like Walmart and the like. Now, Walmart may exist only in the United States and so forth. In Europe, you have very different stores of chains rather, but that goes beyond this, the scope. I guess a lot of people don't even buy albums from any kind of stores apart from certain record stores. In Finland we have, for example, Levykauppa, which is known for selling a lot of metal, extreme metal too, but you don't really find albums in the stores anymore, so that kind of album boosting is bygone. Doesn't matter if you would even have those explicit content stickers these days, because nobody would, buy these albums. Instead, they go for streaming services. Things like Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, YouTube Music for that matter, and so forth, so forth. I guess, among titles and all that stuff, Spotify and Apple Music are definitely number 1 and 2. And YouTube is very important, but more so outside YouTube Music, as, YouTube in general has a lot of these videos, including mine. But a lot of people upload music unofficially through that route. So that is not exactly so controlled. That's more like this kind of a contested territory. Anybody can just upload anything. What it matters is, and this is what comes from YouTube automatically, is that they might make copyright claims. But other than that, you can pretty much just upload your favorite metal album on YouTube and nobody gives you shit. It might be limited in certain places or into use of certain context. I've learned this through my own kid who is making, videos with music. And sometimes certain music gets blocked in certain videos because it's more than 1 minute or whatever, or certain geographical locations. But does that apply underground music? No fucking way. It's, basically these free, uncontested territory where everybody's free to upload whatever. And if copyright claims come to be, so what? It doesn't get removed. So in that sense, YouTube is more like this Wild West kind of a thing. Anybody can upload whatever, and it's not likely to get removed unless it's flagged by some automated algorithms, including for, sexual content or too much violence and all that stuff. But music, nah. Music gets to be on YouTube in most of the cases, even if it's very, very sketchy. But when it comes to Spotify and other such streaming services, which is more controlled, I mean, they are banning nowadays AI-generated music, but for very different reasons than any kind of a political takes. And even if you're like hip-hop star, which might have done some crimes, you might be kind of a shadow band. Your music is there, it's just not featured on the playlist. What this has in relevance to this whole topic, what I'm talking about, is people are now walking more on eggshells. They don't want to get cancelled, their so-called extreme metal, because that would lose the opportunity to do gigs, festivals, sell merchandise, or just, gain money. Now, why money is so important is for a couple of reasons. Like I said, you don't get to, bread your slice of bread. You don't get to butter your slice of bread without money. That costs. Your booze also costs. I mean, there are no free lunches in the world. So money is very, very important. I mean, if you want to buy a set of guitar strings or a new instrument, drumsticks, whatever with your band, you need money. So the choice is, do I get extra money from my band, or do I have to just, pay for that stuff because of my day job, with my day job? Either way, money is important. Now, when it comes to more sketchy or funny or ironic for that matter, is that money doesn't have opinion in politics, in religion, whatsoever. So it's easy to blame or thank money for everything. If somebody's saying like, hey, that's not very cool opinion. Oh, but I got paid for it. So hey, here I am. I have to pay my bills. It's a perfect excuse for bands to do this and that. Sometimes it means they are selling their soul. They are sacrificing their ideas, their values on the altar of money. Because you can always say, but I need money. My house needs to be renovated. My wife needs a new dress. And also, I want to have a new TV where to sit down after, touring around the world. So don't be so hard at me because I just want to earn a little bit money. Is it too wrong? You could say no, but it's in fact very wrong if you're sacrificing your values for it. That's when you start whoring. Rather than staying true to your own vision and doing what the fuck you want with your extreme metal band. Rather than whoring for money. In my opinion, there is a big difference. Now, as a certain kind of a nihilist, I don't really put that much value, because it would be kind of ironic, on values. But I do have some set of rules which I go by. Maybe they are not exactly principles, like I would never do that kind of a thing, because I think it's a lot of that is bullshit. People are lying to themselves. But I think it's in the very core, like as an artist, whether you want to write a book, make music, make a theater play, make movie, whatever, it's important that you can do it so in such a ways that you're being honest. But when you are putting money before of those values or set of rules or whatever you're doing, you are in fact whoring. So that's what this text is all about. Like, some people were reading this whole thing and saying like, yeah, it's all about racism. Racism wasn't mentioned even once here. Not a single kind of politics were mentioned. Politics as a term, like here it was said to be like, let me see the line. There was this part where it was mentioned, but it's not like it's saying this and that kind of politics are okay. It's more about how everything is okay to be done if you're honestly with that. People could be saying like, hey, we're not cool with what you do, and this can go any kind of a far kind of thinking when it comes to politics. Far left, far right, doesn't matter. People say horseshoe theories, lots of bullshit, but in fact, I see it happening all the time. Like, these people are on the left and these are on the right, and they are doing the same shit, throwing shit at each other and trying to pull every other people within, like, hey, if you're not one of us, you're against us. But that's not how real world works. Like, those who are the powers that be, who have the power, who have the money and all that stuff, they're probably laughing at these kids. So we're really arguing about the fucking candlestick on your fucking sandbox. Get fucking real. You don't even have real money if you're talking about these more minor things. So one thing what is here mentioned, which is also mentioned here, and here lies the core of issue: money, cash flow, reputation, the unspoken currency that decides what and cannot be said. The institution around black metal have turned into caution into a product. They sell safety disguised as responsibility. Art has become a risk assessment. Expression has turned into crisis management. And here's the paradox. Black metal as an artist or spiritual outlet was never meant to exist within a climate built on approval and restraint. It was never meant to adapt. It was meant to offend, provoke, to destroy. And today's atmosphere doesn't reward danger, it rewards obedience. So what this text is basically saying is that whether you go by the government rules or you go by their religious rules, this is very, very different country to country, or you go by some outsiders who are saying like gatekeepers outside the scene. They might be saying you're not supposed to listen to that kind of band because it's out of my safe space, or it contradicts my personal feelings or values and what. I'm like, what the fuck? If I want to paint a dead fucking cat or a dead fucking human being there eating another human being or whatever, some people might be offended. I'm like, okay, hey, you have all the right to be offended, and I have all the right to offend you with this art, even if that wasn't the idea to do this painting or piece of music or whatever, a poem. You can challenge me, you can take me to the court of law, but see how it flies. Take your turn. Now, instead, people are like, okay, I know I cannot really fight you legally, so I'm gonna go for my guerrilla tactics. I'm gonna salt your fucking well. I'm gonna put explosives in your mailbox, and I'm gonna do drunken calls to those venues and say, hey, don't you know you have some far right thinking people in your club or far left people? I'm like, fuck that shit. If you want to destroy a scene that is built more than by one set of politics, go ahead and try. But what will be done as damage to your scene is you hurt these people and you will make the whole thing collapse. Think it like this. There are clubs, there are venues, there are shit like other places like that, which are, more or less governed by a city or nation for that matter, usually more local, but stuff like that. Now, if you start, for example, attacking these venues because they might have certain bands that don't really fit your bill of ideas, and you will say, okay, I cannot stand these black metal bands because, I'm a Christian person and my values will be hurt and offended and shit like that. You need to remove them because they're not compatible with the, rules set by the government or my religion or whatever. Yeah, you know what happens? These places might be, if they take your threat seriously, they might, okay, let's not have any of the shows. Let's remove all the punks. They are drunken, drug addicts anyway. They do no good. Let's remove death metal, black metal, actually all kind of metal, because that's just lots of bullshit. We don't want to, make our hands dirty. Let's remove it all together. So when black metal people and death metal people, among others, would be fighting one another because of political differences, they're both gonna fall. Who gets out of the game winner? The governing things. Religious are like hand clapping. Yes, we finally managed to make black metal so meaningless and so dangerous, so it's out of the system. No public place will ever host a show. Thank you. Same applies to death metal, punk, what have you. Maybe only Christian bands will survive that. And if you take to more Islam countries, Muslim countries, and you try to do extreme metal, hey, good luck not getting into jail, or worse, being flogged or whatever. So there are always these chances that when you try to chew inside the system, the scene, whatever, you are just making your own scene collapse. Now, if you're an outsider and wish all the ill, all the bad for your favorite or enemy metal scene, well, then I guess you're doing God's job in that sense. But when I was reading things about like how black metal was meant to offend, provoke, and destroy, and even more than that, yes, I was living my teenager years in the 90s. I was there firsthand to see these values, reading these interviews and seeing the bands go on stage and making their wild statements, sometimes very sketchy, even from bands that are not sketchy anymore. I'm not going to even name drop anything because I don't want to, stain nobody's reputation here. That's what this video is not meant for. But, those bands felt dangerous. Back in the days, this is one name dropping I'm going to do. Emperor had like 3 different people going to the court of law or even being imprisoned because it was so dangerous. At one point, Emperor was the most dangerous, most high-nosed black metal band from Norway. Wow, they had murder, they had this, they had that violence, and all that stuff. Arsons even. And wow, people would be, wow, would you consider Emperor of today being, dangerous, violent, sketchy? Probably not, and for a lot of reasons. Now, like I said, I'm not gonna stain here anything, using that's just an example. There would be plenty of those. What happens with censorship is nowadays it's very, very selective. Sometimes promoters be like, hey, I can host a black metal band shows. But when they get calls or emails, and people are like, hey, but that band is sketchy because they are signed to this label. And that band is very sketchy because they have this member who has a friend in another band who has a friend who plays that band. So it must be very, very sketchy. You need to remove them. Sometimes promoters, bookers, whoever are like, okay, so what? They are black metal band. They're supposed to be somewhat dangerous, sketchy, and not safe for your surrounding. But some promoters are like, okay, we're not going to book any black metal shows. I don't want to get my hands dirty. I don't want to ruin the reputation of my venue, club, whatsoever. So better not do anything. Better safe than sorry. Let's have instead some indie rock band where everybody feels good and all that stuff. Nobody even gets drunk. So this is a very, very eggshell territory these days. And I find a lot of bands have really hoard themselves. Hoard in such a ways they rather not take risks. They don't even maybe, I don't know, publish their lyrics so that nobody can get upset. What they are at most dangerous is that they might have an inverted cross, maybe some corpse paint and spikes around their wrists, and that's about it. If you consider that to be a dangerous thing, well, good for you, I guess. So I feel a lot of this whole black metal thing and beyond is being diluted because bands are becoming more pussified. They are almost like, if you remember Stormtroopers of Death, or SOD, singing back in the days, pussy whipped, don't you know you're pussy whipped. That song was obviously a take on how these men are being, commanded and managed by their women, how they are not kind of free to do whatever they want as guys because they're too afraid of their spouses, wives or otherwise. And that kind of a pussification is very much real in metal department. People are so scared what to say, what kind of statement they can say or write down on their albums or say things like in the interviews because they are so afraid that their careers might be destroyed or stained or their gigs might be cancelled. Now, like I said, I understand this from the money point of view. If your band only exists to make money and entertain people, bring a smile on their faces, then you are probably not doing wrong thing by playing very safe and walking on eggshells, not to offend anybody, not to piss off anybody, not to make anybody upset. Then you're okay to have these stage pieces. Everybody doing all right? Having a good time? Hello, London, we love you. Oh yeah, you're our favorite fans. Is this how black metal is supposed to sound? Probably not. Not in my books anyway. But I mean, if that's how you want to steer and drive down the road with your band, go ahead. But then, live by those rules. Don't even try to say you're extreme by any sense. Make yourself ready for the impact that people are not gonna say, you're too pussified, you're posers, you're fakes, you are wannabes, you are just not real anymore. I mean, if you remember back in the 90s, how there was this thing like, is this a true metal band, true black metal band, or not? Now, people might find it, yeah, but it was kind of a juvenile and young and blah, 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 and stupid. But that kind of a gatekeeping had a lot of sense because people were measured whether they were truth speakers and honest with their defiance, aggression, whatever feelings you want to list on this thing, or was it just a show? Was it just something that you say in order to be respected and liked by other people's, groupies included? Are you trying to make an impression on the girls or your peers among the scene? Or are you really into this kind of stuff? So if you're writing lyrics honestly, what would you write? And this is a major thing because a lot of bands want to sound evil. They want to sound impressive. They want to sound and seem like they're dangerous and that they are extreme in their very nature, that their thinking is something that could be, wow, that is rebellious. But for a lot of people, it's just a show. So they are backpedaling from a lot of things, what they say, what they represent. And at the same time, they also want to have their share of this candy show. So what I'm saying is, some people want to eat the cake and save the cake, but that's a paradox. That's not possible. So if you want to be, say, for example, this goes as a metaphor. If you want to do drugs and be extreme because, hey, you're doing drugs, do it. And if you are gonna be against those drugs, at least be honest about it. The same thing goes for vegetarians or vegans for that matter, or Christian people, Muslim people, black metal people. Be honest, what the fuck are you doing? But if you're making your black metal a career based on things you cannot even sign these days, you cannot agree with themselves anymore, you are a fake. You're just riding the boat so you can make more money. And in my opinion, that's a sad state of affair. Now, as said, if you want to read Steelfest's take on the very topic, do it. I think it has very, very, very many good points, which I can totally agree with. And when it comes to me and my own bands, Outside and Annihilators, if you want to get them cancelled because I say what I say, go ahead and do it. I don't need your festivals, your gigs, if you are one of those people who want to see black metal only as a career and a way to make money. However, if you want to have us in your boat, Prepare to be honest. Prepare to be someone I can respect really, truthfully, not with bullshit or for that bullshit. I hope this statement makes sense. I'm expecting a lot of backlash for this video because I tend to be too straightforward and too, I don't know, salty or whatever for a lot of people, and it's fucking fine. I don't need more friends. I am a very selective misanthrope. I don't like most people in the world. But I do like a lot of people. And those people who have deserved my respect and my like or even love for them, they are something that I can die for and totally live with. So take it as you will. I am totally fine with whatever take you have on me or this very topic that Steelfest mentioned. Just be honest and don't be a fucking dickhead. Rauta out.